It's Judd's Hockey Show.
Judd's Hockey Show sans Judd Zolgad, that is. Declan Goff and AJ Fredrickson here instead to take you through an edition of Wild Vent Line. That's AJ, I'm Declan. What's going on? Judd's enjoying his 40th wedding anniversary. Maybe enjoying, in parentheses, AJ, because I'm sure Judd is hot right now. I did get a text from him. He said he picked up 2 cases of spotted cow because Wisconsin.
Yep.
His wife's enjoying some champagne, so they are enjoying their 30th wedding anniversary. I wouldn't be shocked at all if I get a very evening Judd from the bar, wherever he is at, or the hotel room in Wisconsin as he's upset for the Wild after a Game 4 loss. The Wild fall to the Stars today. They even up the series 2 games apiece, so the series goes back to Dallas now on Tuesday. Games 5 and 7, if necessary, in Dallas. Game 6 will be back here in St. Paul, I believe, on Friday. Game of poor officiating, AJ. I've never been a big blame officials guy by any means.
No.
That being said, the 2 calls on Foligno, I know you kind of tweeted that was the worst possible outcome for the first one that happened. And then obviously the Stars take a timeout after the second one, and they cash in from there. So unfortunately, the Wild get bit a little bit by poor officiating, but still missed opportunities, I think, too, were kind of a theme for the Wild tonight.
Yeah. And I'm with you too. I'm never one of those guys that's like, the refs screwed us, blah, blah, blah. But there's a million, quite literally millions of instances, each and every hockey game that can go whatever way, and that's going to greatly affect the outcome. For instance, Kaprizov buries a open backdoor goal instead of, skying it past Oettinger and totally missing. That probably changes how things go. Or multiple breakaways earlier in the game, maybe they score on those. That might change how things go. But yeah, no, in the middle of January, I think that officiating, you can probably brush it aside and look past. In the NHL playoffs, neither of those, interference is not the call there. Yeah. I could understand maybe charging. There's an argument there for it. Interference is not the call. That's what it goes in as the book as. So I'm going to be mad about it. And then tripping there, I have a hard time seeing how that's a trip. Marchment dives out of the way, and granted they clip each other a little bit, but he stays on his feet. So I'm not sure how you can argue that's a trip, but I'll digress. Jake Oettinger was the show tonight. He was the full attraction. That's what people ended up essentially paying their tickets to see, because he was a goalie robot tonight. The Wild just couldn't really crack him. It took a weird deflection in the top of the slot for Klingberg to then get a knuckle puck on it. Like that puck was not sitting flat. That was standing upright on his blade, and he whipped that thing like a lacrosse ball, essentially top corner. So but besides that one flaw, Jake Oettinger, perfect tonight. That's the type of performances that the Wild better hope that they don't see the rest of the series, because if they do, Dallas might as well, check their ticket into round 2, because they are going to have an easy time beating the Wild with that type of performance in the back end of things.
By the way, this is Wild Vent Line too, so if you want to get on this episode with AJ and myself and voice your frustrations, voice maybe some other things that come up later on in the series, hit me up. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. I know it's a little confusing, but it's vikingsventline@gmail.com for the YouTube audience. It's scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now. This has been a place for you. We welcomed over 20 guests on the last one. I know that was a win. We were celebrating happier times on this podcast, but if you have some frustrations, whether it's on the referees or the Wild itself, or if you're even a Dallas Stars fan, we welcome everyone here on Judd's Hockey Show. So if you want to come on Wild Vent Line, shoot me an email. Again, vikingsventline@gmail.com. AJ, I think what was so telling to me too is you've seen a lot of playoff games. I know you and you're like 4 years younger than I am, but you can remember most of all Wild playoff runs. This could have been the first time 2 things could have happened in this series.
Mm-hmm.
The Wild missed an opportunity to go up 2-0 in the series when the game was obviously in Dallas for game 2. That's never happened.
Yep.
They also could have went up 3-1 tonight if they had won. That's also never happened. I know it's different franchises, different players, different coaches, but I don't know what it is about this franchise that just can't put teams away, but this was an opportunity to basically put the Dallas Stars away with 3 games left if necessary in the series, and they weren't able to do it. And to me, I think that's what's always just so frustrating about this franchise.
And they showed, talk about Sunday scaries, they showed up a graphic late in the game when the Wild at the point were down by 2 goals, and it was in their last 8 game 4s. The Wild are 1-7. 1-7. that doesn't help my odds. Granted, it's a completely different year, it's a completely different team, but if you're
Right.
one of those people that are a little superstitious and love to put your nose in the history books, that does not probably sit well with you heading into game 5.
Yeah, I think that's what's so frustrating. You have now possibly 2 more games in Dallas. The Wild are only guaranteed 1 more home game the rest of this series. We'll see what obviously happens on
Mhm.
Tuesday in Dallas, 7 p.m. start too. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, just a missed opportunity, I think, for the Wild to not go out there and potentially put this team away and put Dallas on ice a little bit. I thought Game 3 was basically played perfectly right from start to
Yeah.
finish. Game 1 was, double overtime. I wouldn't say it was fluky, but you had to really grind that out. It was certainly not a clean product in the win. And this evening, outside of, to your point, Jake Oettinger, I mean, the Wild had 8-on-1 odd man rushes at one point, numerous opportunities, power plays, etc., and they just couldn't put them away. And I think that's what was so frustrating for me to see.
Yeah, no, it's tough because there's only so much you can do as a fan watching from your couch at home, where it's like you get these chances, and the thing is about some of those chances, Dex, I would say at times a little too cute. A little, I feel like for most of the
Hmm.
60 minutes tonight, it was too much extra pass. Sometimes simplify it down. You don't like think about it as fractions, guys. You don't need to think about it as 4/8. That's just one half. Sometimes you just gotta let the thing fly, because I know Ottinger's seen the puck well, and you're trying to really solve that Rubik's cube of him between the pipes, but you're going to beat him with garbage goals. And how you get that is a shot on goal with that very juicy rebound, and you just have to have green sweaters crash in the net. And I feel like a lot of the times tonight, not that they didn't have a lot of good chances, I felt like there could have been more. It's just it was negated by an errant pass that I think maybe felt unneeded.
For sure. We have a couple Wild guests lined up here on Wild Vent Line. Again, if you want to get in on this episode, shoot me a note. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from as many Wild fans as possible. We'll start off with Matt here. Matt's outside. Matt,
Hey, what's
up,
going
buddy?
on? Not too much. How you guys doing? I'm
We're
on the
doing
West
okay.
Coast over here.
There we
Okay.
go.
What a frustrating game. I mean, how do you have 6 breakaways and not net a single one of those? I mean, we played like a bunch of Kevin Fialas tonight. Just so bad. I mean, you can blame the refs, I guess, for a couple, but when you have that many opportunities, you got to capitalize.
Absolutely. I love the Kevin Fiala comparison too there, Matt.
Mhm.
Obviously, Fiala's been a great regular season player. Whereas also on the same topic though, where has Matt Boldy been? Right. I mean,
Exactly. I
that's
mean, your
also
two
been,
best scorers are just nowhere.
yeah, they definitely need a little bit more from them. Matt, thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, Age. I know the Wild's broadcast was kind of celebrating that, and rightfully so going into this. Hey, they've gotten depth scoring, right? They've gotten
Yeah.
scoring from just about everyone not named Kirill, which was a problem last year. Well, now conversely, it's been 4 games. I believe just 1 goal for Kirill Kaprizov. Matt Boldy has been a complete ghost. Your 2 best players. I understand if one of them gets shut down, and
Mhm.
mostly Kirill for that matter, but you can't have both of them get shut down. And right now, neither the 2 best players on the ice for the Wild during the regular season have really shown up through the first 4 games of this playoff series.
Yeah, and it doesn't help when I know the other night, Friday, Matt Zuccarello reemerged, and it seemed to be a kind of series altering performance from him, where he went out and it just kind of took matters into his own hands. But I felt like tonight maybe we saw him do the Homer Simpson gif and just kind of back into the bushes, and you lost sight of him. But yeah, no, Kirill, I I think it's just Dallas is playing him very well, and they're getting the right guys out against him. He is still doing, I think, stuff off the puck that we expect from Kirill Kaprizov. There was a goal down in Dallas where he had that stick lift on, I want to say it was Heiskanen, maybe Hakanpää, right out front, that allowed Johansson to score a goal off a deflection. So I don't want to say that he's totally ghosting it, because he still is, I think, producing in some way, shape, and form. But when it comes to Matt Boldy, we do need to see more. And I love Matt Boldy, so I hate saying that I'm like he's letting me down, but we need more from him, simply. Um, and the thing is, that line of his was buzzing in the first period. They were
Yeah.
part of that momentum. The fourth line got it really kicked off, where they had a really good shift. And then that Boldy line got out there, and they were moving the puck around the offensive zone, getting chances. They were just funneling pucks to the front of the net, just couldn't beat Oettinger, which was the story all night. But it seemed like and up until the Klingberg goal, what I saw was a lot of the Wild almost without seeing that puck go in, they almost felt like you saw them get discouraged. Like, okay, well, we're just not going to do it tonight. And then you saw that resurgence obviously after the goal, but I do need more from Matt Boldy. He's a guy that we saw him for a month straight just light it up and be one of the best players in the league. We can't have that be in the regular season and then disappear in the playoffs like we've seen with a guy like Kevin Fiala too. Wild fans deserve better than that.
No, absolutely. And for Wild fans who were used to Kevin Fiala not showing up, which was always very, very frustrating for them. They want to see Matt Boldy, who has been streaky too at times. Like, even though you mentioned that over the last 2 months of the season, he was one of the better forwards in the NHL. And look, he's got a bright future in front of him. He's still only 22 years old or so. But you need your star players to show up here in the postseason. And to your Zuccarello point, I know he was great in game 3, but he was awful in the first 2 games. I thought tonight, again, just numerous turnover, drive killing plays, if you will, to steal a football analogy. Like Gustav Nyquist has been, in my opinion, like one of the best players in the ice for the Wild here. Yeah. And now with Kirill, I mean, basically still being kind of non-existent through 4 games. I know they love keeping Zuccarello and Kaprizov together because they're basically best buddies and they have this amazing chemistry over a long period of time. But it's 2-2. Your star player isn't going here. Like, if I'm Dean and I see comments of people saying, like, if they start Marc-Andre Fleury in game 5, I'm going to lose my absolute mind. And we'll go down that path here in a little bit. But I think that's one move you can make. Put Nyquist on with Kirill Kaprizov. Let the best player on the ice this series get going here. And hopefully Gustav Nyquist could be that guy.
Yeah, it's hard to say that after the performance we saw on Friday night from him. Because that was I think I heard you guys mention it. Like, somebody probably talked to him behind the scenes of, hey, this is one more chance. We can maybe afford you doing one more bad game. But if you don't show us something here, I don't think they would sit him, because I think Matt Zuccarello, we saw when he's on. But I would love to see Nyquist, a guy that since being re-entered in the lineup, coming back from injury, almost a point per game guy. I mean, he's been playing phenomenally. He's great on that right side of the ice. He's got the speed to drive the play up. And if they moved him up to the top line, I don't think a single person would bat an eye about it.
Let's go next to Luca here on Wild Bent Line. Hey, Luca, what's up, bud?
I'm just, taking everything in after that game. The first thing I noticed was Odd had a great game. He stole the game from the Wild numerous times. But one thing I noticed is a lot of the shot. There was just a couple of instances where the shots the Wild took were maybe not ideal, or they were, I get it. The NHL is a fast-paced league, and take a shot whenever you can. But I feel like there was just times where their shot selection could have been better, and instead of trying to roof it instinctively, maybe either keep moving and look for another guy, or just take a better shot. But I just didn't like a lot of the shots in the clutch moments, like you were saying earlier, with like the power or the breakaway, and then just some of the slot shots as well. And then the last thing I just want to mention is the power play. Right, we got that one power play, but that was a 6-on-4 thing. I wouldn't really count too much in that, but I heard something on the broadcast right before the game started. We were 3 of 16 before this game. And now I don't know exactly what our numbers are now, but that's got to improve, because every game that's won by other team has gotten at least one goal in the power play. And again, not counting that wacky goal at the end by the Wild with the 6-on-4. But we just got to convert better on the power play. And I don't know if that's a schematic thing or it's just puck's not going our way. But, I just think things need to change. And last before I go is, I'm not going to give my answer, but I just want to know, what do you guys think? Do you think Dean plays Flower, or do you think they roll with Gus one more game? So thank you guys for having me on.
Thanks, Luke. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Age, I think they stick with Gustafsson. I think.
I agree. I wouldn't be up in arms about the change, but I would very much question. It would be the same thing as going into game 2. That would be like, to Luca's point, kind of with the power play. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it almost at that point. I would lean towards maybe not like a 50-50, but more so heavily and just rock with Gustafsson. You got to think about the 2 opportunities that probably shouldn't have been there for the Stars to score, and that was coming off of the power play. I'm not going to fault the goaltender on some of the power play goals, because they are playing shorthanded. To his point of talking about the power play, though, to steal the line from the movie Miracle, we're not weaving for weaving's sake, gentlemen. We're not passing for the sake of just passing. Do it with an intention. It seemed like there was no direction. There was no like end goal. It's just, okay, we're going to try to get it over here and let's see who maybe drifts out of position so then we can get to the middle of the ice. We saw it later in the game when they were really zipping it around, but it was just like so lackadaisical. Oh, okay, I guess we'll move over to the right side. Now to the half wall. Should I shoot here? No, let's just pass. Do something. If you're going to do it, have a plan. And I'm sure there was a plan, but it seemed like there wasn't. Do it with a little more urgency. It's I don't know. It's tough to have the Stars capitalize on the power plays that they did, and then the Wild just come up empty until very, very late in the game. So I'm sure they'll work on something here. And this is where I want to see Dean. And I know you and Judd and Jesse have mentioned this a lot throughout the season and leading up to the playoffs. The coaching of Dean Evason, I think, is going to be put on test here, because power plays and just special teams is what's been essentially winning these games in the series so far. You saw it in game 1, Dallas lights out. I mean, they had 13 seconds of power play time and 2 goals. So the Wild need to get that figured out moving into game 5, because you don't want, as I've seen a lot on Twitter tonight and even in the chat here, it's the refs are, to an extent, at fault, but they're not the reason why the Wild lost this game. Not the sole reason, at least. So you need to get that figured out and take matters more into your own hands.
Yeah, you got to kind of grab the bull there and take it down with you. So let's see what the Wild can do potentially for adjustments in game 5. Again, that's Tuesday now in Dallas. I believe the 7 p.m. Central puck drop too. So not 8:40, which is 8:50, which is whatever the hell they like to manipulate the time. It is a 7:00 puck drop for the Minnesota Wild in Dallas for game 5 on Tuesday. We'll keep the Wild calls moving here. We'll go next to David. Hey, David, what's up, pal? Good to see you again.
Good to see you guys too. I think it's very frustrating game. Bad calls aside, you have 2 1-on-0 breakaways. You don't score. Mm-hmm. You have 2 almost wide open nets, and you're standing almost in the crease, and you miss them. That hurts, especially if Foligno's just right there. Just tap the dang thing in. The buttons to push for Evason aren't a ton, I feel like, because there's with Eck out probably for Wednesday. We'll see about that. Mm-hmm. You talk about Nyquist moving up, bringing Zuccarello down, whatnot. Is there that many more buttons to push? And the other thing I'll say before I get off is, what is it about Minnesota teams that when the opportunity is there to put the foot on the damn throat, we never take it? And is that a player thing? Is that a coaching thing? I mean, is that sports specific? But there is never a team that has just taken their foot and stomped it down on an opponent's throat in the playoffs like this. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I mean, that's what I brought up to AJ point blank to start the show was great opportunity here. And they've been in the playoffs almost like 50% of their entire franchise history. They've never gone up 2-0 in a series. They've never been up 3-1 in a series. In different years, different teams, all that stuff, it doesn't matter. This franchise has never, ever been able to do that. And it's kind of remarkable. The math of you going to the playoffs that many times, and you don't just luck your way, stumble, just trip and fall over yourselves into good situations. And the Wild have not been able to do that. It's unreal.
The amount of jealousy I feel when I see other teams just go up like 3-0, or even seeing Boston just go up 3-1 in their series today. I'm like, God, I wish the Wild could just do that. Give me one solid night of sleep between games without thinking like, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? I just want to feel that peace, that comfort in the playoffs just once. And I haven't felt that with the Wild.
A few more Wild fans here lined up on Wild Vent Line. By the way, hit the subscribe button. This is Judd's Hockey Show. Sans Judd Zulgad, who's enjoying his 30th wedding anniversary. That's AJ Fredrickson. I'm Declan Goff. If you want daily Minnesota sports entertainment, hit that subscribe button for daily Minnesota sports entertainment. That is. You got Flagrant Howls later tonight with Kyle Tighe and Phil Mackey as well. So if you're a Wolves fan looking for that content, be on the lookout for that. But this is Judd's Hockey Show. We recap Minnesota Wild news. So if this is the first time you're discovering us, thank you. Hit the subscribe button for daily Minnesota sports entertainment. We're going to go next to Matt here. Hi, Matt. What's up, bud?
Hey, one comment. If you take out the first or last 4 minutes of the second and the first 4 of the third, I think this is one of the best showings we've had. It just happens in those 8 minutes we sold the farm. I think somebody's got to talk to Foligno because, as I said to you, he's running around. He was chasing after things. He was looking to get that penalty. I mean, jumps, throws his feet out. Like, it was just. I mean, he was kind of a mess tonight, and I think somebody's got to talk to him. Maybe bring Sundqvist in, give him a rest. They're kind of the same player, and might bring the same spark, but might just freshen up the lineup and give him a chance to kind of think about two very dumb penalties that he shouldn't have taken.
Matt, good point, man. Thanks for coming on Wild Vent Line. Age, what do you make of that? Because like Marcus is a guy who he's a noticeable player on the ice, even when he's maybe doing things like that, which are noticeable in obviously negative ways. But obviously in Game 3, he was great. He's always kind of going to have a full head of steam and going after guys. But like, where do you kind of draw the line of, is he, playing, foolishly? Is he doing the right things and just getting penalized for it because he's just that kind of player? Where do you kind of draw the line there with Foligno?
First things first, Matt, unbelievable flow. Did you see the dual exhaust on him, Dex?
That was I
gotta see what
good
product
stuff,
he's
man.
got. That was great.
Stuff,
but when it comes to Foligno, I personally disagree. I personally loved the play of him tonight because I don't think either penalty was necessarily deserved. He was think about Friday night. He was such a big factor in the team's momentum and just getting the hometown crowd to just go ballistic for 60 straight minutes because he was playing the same way. And maybe it was a little more reckless tonight because he felt like, I played it so well. Let's see if I can push the boundaries a little bit more here. But interference is not the right call there. I don't think tripping is the right call. I don't think he necessarily did anything wrong. It's just he missed a body check at one point and he laid a perfectly legal hit on another. So he's trying to, he knows his role. And I think I'm not going to penalize him for that. He's a physical guy. He's not this guy that we've seen maybe over the past couple seasons where for some reason he gets up to 20, 25 plus goals. He's not you're not going to have him be a fighter or anything like that in the playoffs. Despite it coming back to bite the Wild, I actually really enjoyed Foligno's play tonight, and I hope he doesn't change anything going into Game 5.
Well, and Age, he was honestly struggling there towards the end of towards like the last 10 games or so of the regular season. He wasn't playing up to par, and I mean, hell, even Judd even called, is he going to be scratched? Like, is there a chance that he could be scratched at some point this series? He's been playing his ass off the last 2 games. You definitely can't. He's the heartbeat of that team. Bill Guerin loves that guy. There's a reason he's got an A on his sweater. Like, he does mean an awful lot to that team. And yeah, there are moments where maybe emotions get the best of them. Yes, but I don't think it's in a detriment. I know that sounds weird because he got called for 2 penalties tonight, but I'm kind of with you. I kind of lean more on the phantom penalty scale than I do Marcus's not using his head type of scale. It's a tough place to be when you're someone like Foligno who plays with your heart on your sleeve, but Wild need that. Like, I'd rather have that guy on the team than this team being a lifeless bunch of woe is me kind of guys where they don't know what to do when adversity hits, right? Like, Marcus Foligno's always going to be that kind of guy that tries to spark them.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's keep it moving. Wild Vent Line. We're going to go next to Griff. Hey, Griff, what's up, dude?
Man, I'm so pissed. I'm so fired up. I haven't calmed down yet. I know the Wild were a little too cute tonight. They missed a ton of open shots, and like Oettinger played great. But those 2 horrible calls, I think, really define the game and are just like, that's what's sticking with me. And now I don't know what Dean's gonna do for Game 5 in Dallas with the goalie situation, but now I'm worried that, like, does he ride Gus and then we lose and now Fleury's in for Game 6 in elimination, and I just don't know, but I'm stressed, man.
Yeah, Griff, it's tough, man. Stay in there, okay? Thanks for calling a Wild Vent Line, though. Appreciate it.
Yes, yeah.
Poor Griff. Yeah, that I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they give it to Fleury. I wouldn't give it to Fleury. I don't think he deserves it, but I wouldn't be shocked at all.
I don't envy the decision that they have to make. Going back to it, that's what, in changing the topic from the goalie here, that's what separates teams that are going to win the Stanley Cup and teams that don't. You can't let those 2 calls define the game for you. You have to take matters into your own hands, because every team that makes the playoffs, aside from some years, is a very good team. The parity that you see in the NHL, anybody has a shot anytime. And the Wild are a good enough team, I feel like, to where I know you get scored on both of those power plays against Foligno, but you had so many chances. You can't let just those 2 calls define the game and turn things around. And now you're kicking, a can up and down the street like, oh, woe is me. Go out there and put a puck in the back of the net. But Griff does bring up a really good point, because I'm going to wrestle with that for the next 48 hours. If you go Gustafsson again, I don't think he played a bad game, but let's say they lose, you almost feel obligated to then make the change and go Fleury for game 6. But then it's like, well, now he sat for a full week or so. It's elimination game. Everything's ramped up, and it almost feels like what we saw last year again. And who knows what happens if he can, pull a game out of a dark spot. So I don't envy Dean and the rest of the coaching staff for the decision they have to make here.
All right, let's go next to Brady here. Brady, what's going on?
What's up, boys?
How are you?
Good. So I'm the biggest Kaprizov stan there is in the world. And the problem is you look back at like what Boldy was before we brought in Johansson. Like he was a non-factor. You bring in Johansson and all of a sudden Boldy's the guy again. He puts up one of the best months we've ever seen. Well, you look at Zuccarello, he'll circle around the net and then have a wide open net and not shoot the puck. He'll throw it across the ice before he shoots it. Zuccarello can't play on the boards. He can't play defense unless he is making those tic-tac-toe passes. He's a nothing. Like, how do you not have someone else up there? You could put Dewar up there and he'd do better than what Zuccarello's doing right now. I think he's got to get scratched. And I think Sundqvist has to be thrown a third line and you put Nyquist up on the first line. I think it's easy.
Love the hot take, man. Thanks for coming on Wild Vent Line.
I appreciate that. I love that so much. I respect that's not where I expected it to go. Scratch Zuccarello is a step further than what I would say, but I agree with him completely. He's been a liability other than Friday night, and it's something that we saw that I expected him to snap out of in Kaprizov's absence, where Zuccarello was just kind of a non-factor every single night, and then I expected when he came back in, go ahead and flip the light switch back to peanut butter and jelly. We're going to score goals. We're going to have fun. And that just really hasn't been the case. So I think you got one game to do it. If you don't do it next game, you're certainly not doing it for the game following when you're down 3-1. But if you're going to do it, I think it's an easy swap of Zuccarello and Nyquist. Just flip-flop them.
All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go next to John here. Hey, John, you're on Wild Vent Line, sir. How are you doing?
Hey, John.
I am very sad. That's how I'm doing. Yeah, those penalties were pretty tough on Foligno, but like your partner just said, who talks about bad calls and penalties? The losers. That's who talks about those. I may be mistaken, but I think Jared Spurgeon had 2 goals for the Dallas Stars tonight. One going off his calf and one being tipped by him on the way of the net. Even so, coming into the night, if I did my math right, he had a 1.5 goal against with a 960 save percentage. I don't know how many shots they had tonight, but 3 goals, 2 were fluky. That shouldn't even be a discussion. Boldy did hit a post tonight. But a lot of the game, it seemed like I was watching Victor Rask handle the puck, just getting clobbered, knocked off the puck all night long. He's got to be stronger on his stick. I think Middleton and Spurgeon are struggling. They were -3 in game 2, and 2 goals go off Spurgeon tonight. That's hurting pretty bad. And I like the idea about moving Gustav to the first line, but right now he's not playing against first line defensemen. He's playing against third line folks, and he's excelling. So are we hurting ourselves more by putting him on stronger competition? Are we helping, or do we just take advantage of the points he's getting off third line folks? So I'll be there Tuesday night, but I'm pretty dejected right now.
All right, John. Cheer him on, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Cheer
there.
up too. Crack a beer.
Yeah, it's only 2-2. Okay, I'll be the Minnesota optimist here just for a little bit. It's 2-2. This is not life support yet, so you're still fine. You got 3 games here to play with if necessary. You can put them away the next 2. We'll see what happens. Gustav Nyquist, I believe only like 12.5 minutes to or 12:50 of 5-on-5 or ice time, I should say, today. That dude deserves more. I know John's point of, well, is he going to be moving up against competition? He's going to be playing against tougher players for sure, but I think Dean has to reward that, right? Like I don't look at that as like, oh, because Marcus Foligno's playing so well and Goudreau, is playing a little bit ahead of his skis because X out. Like, you got to put Nyquist, I think, with the best player in the world right now, or best player in the Wild, I should say, which is Kirill Kaprizov. Like, I don't think you can be afraid or crippled to do that.
No, not at all. When it comes to the defense, it's one of those things where you're gonna think they had a bad game just because they got scored on 3 times, and God, I mean, I think Spurgeon's one of those guys where he gets overlooked, even with the team you're rooting for. If he was if he was wearing the Toronto Maple Leaf blue, he would be a guy that is talked about as like a top 2 D pairing guy across the league for every single team. I feel like he gets overlooked, and I know the size isn't there, and I know that he doesn't throw like these booming body checks that you see like a guy like Jacob Trouba do with the Rangers, but he has the C on his chest for a reason. He has to play a certain style of game given his attributes and characteristics, and he does it so well. If you take him out of the lineup, I think Brodin is probably the best defensive defenseman on the Wild, but Spurgeon is right there at number 2, and he would be a noticeable absence if for some reason he was gone. So I don't want to harp on him because he does it so consistently each night you're out there. But when he does have a bad game, he's not exempt from criticism. I think you got to dish that out fair and square to everybody, but I don't think Spurgeon necessarily was the issue tonight on the backside. There's bigger issues to talk about when it comes to the Wild's defensive lacking.
A couple post-game quote notes here that are trickling in since reporters are down there and whatnot. Marcus Foligno on his penalties, he used one word to describe them: BULLSHIT, end quote. He did not spell it out. I'm spelling it out because I can't say the word on this. Well, I'm recommended to not say the word on this podcast, I should say.
It's a good thing I can't spell. That's for sure.
Okay, both of us are St. Cloud State graduates, so good thing I spelled it out for that exact reason. Peter DeBoer saying we, quote, had to win that game. And then Foligno carried on with his assessment saying, quote, it's a joke. It doesn't make any sense. I go to hit a guy who touches a puck. It's not interference. I get a high stick in the face. It's not a tripping call. When you hit a guy clean on, it is BS, end quote. So, I mean, the team's obviously very pissed off because of the officiating, rightfully so. They do mention this from also Joe Smith, The Athletic, I should say, too, that although the officiating was a problem, they look at the lack of odd man rushes and the fact the Stars are 7 for 16 on the power play this series so far, Age. So, I mean, 7 of those goals coming from the man advantage. As much as the officiating can be a problem, and certainly was in those 2, can't be letting in basically 50% or so of power play opportunities.
No, not at all. I think what's like the old rule of thumb, PK is supposed to be up around 80%. Mm-hmm. Power play is supposed to be about like 20 to 25, and that's respectable. Like you're not going to be super up in arms about it. Almost half is terrible. I mean, granted, I know the top dogs for Dallas, they get the job done, and they are a lethal assassin team on the power play, but the Wild have to be better. And I know you're missing Eriksson Ek, but you can't just let that be a reason to just like roll over and let them just fire shots and get these great opportunities. One, I know you can just try to stay out of the box, but obviously we've seen with tonight, that's not always the case of you really don't have a say in that sometimes. You just have to be better on the penalty kill. Special teams are going to come down to be the determining factor of this series. That's going to be the main story other than maybe goaltending, because the goaltending, I think, on both sides has been pretty solid through the first 4 games. Mm-hmm. It's special teams. And so the Wild need to clean that up. And on the other side of things, they need to get better on the power play, because they had opportunities to do that too, that just couldn't. I mean, and I don't want to keep reiterating what I said earlier at the opening of the show, but the power play just didn't look like they had that it factor tonight. They didn't really look like they had that Oh, thank you so much, Danny. They didn't look like they had that urgency to really, and I know that sounds dumb because it's the playoffs and it's a power play opportunity at home, but they just didn't look like they had that like mission of we're scoring. And that's that, like, there's no question about it. We're finding the back. It was like, well, we'll try to get some momentum here. I want you to actually try to score. Put the puck through the goalie's chest if needed. Like, go out there and actually do it.
Age, what do you make of other possible lineup changes? So Sundqvist was really good. Been out of the lineup a little bit. Do you take out Ryan Reeves at all? I mean, with Foligno going the way he is, like Reeves is Reeves. I don't think he's been a detriment. I don't think he's been a, can't miss player either in this series. Like, is there a swap you could make there? Are you staying away from that? What would you kind of do with the lineup tweaking?
Yeah, and your point again about Ryan Reeves, I think, is exactly the issue. Is you're not really noticing him, and that's not bad, but that's also not great because I feel like that's the guy you almost want to notice for a certain reason, and that's because he's throwing that big hit or he's getting under the skin of the opposition. And I just really haven't seen that. The one time I noticed him tonight was there was a Oettinger covered a puck up on the top of his crease and Reeves stood over him, and nobody in a white sweater for Dallas like came up to be, and granted, I don't think they're really going to pick a fight with him, but it's one of those, he didn't look like he was intimidating or like getting under the skin like I think his role should be. Sundqvist, I mean, he played great the other night, but I wouldn't be surprised because you don't need, I think, two of those guys, especially with the way that I think the series now has shifted over the last 60 minutes of play. And I'm not saying it's a totally different series now or anything, but it was so physical. First game, second game, third game. Tonight, it seemed like maybe as many body checks weren't connecting, and maybe you didn't see as many after whistle scrums. It looked like Dallas was able to kind of play the game that they know they're going to be able to win the series with, which is if we just play skilled hockey and try to, set up the zone, they're going to be the team that can win that style. The Wild need to either get back to that nitty gritty. We're going to go at it after every single whistle, and every period's going to be like 40 minutes long in real lifetime. Whereas that first period flew by, and that's the hockey that Dallas wants to play. And granted, the Wild had a lot of really, really good chances. They just couldn't capitalize. So 60 minutes of that, Dallas is going to win that. But if the Wild can get a little mix of both, a little half-calf, 50-50, I think they can win that style. And that's where Ryan Reeves does factor in. So it's either they fully commit to playing that style of game, or you have to make some changes. And that's where it's on Dean.
Absolutely. Game 5 in Dallas on Tuesday night. So we'll see what the heck happens with the Wild there. If they can come back to St. Paul with a potential lead. If not, someone's going up with 3-2 by the end of that one. And the Wild could be either having their season on life support in St. Paul on Friday, or they could have a chance, obviously, to close out the series in front of the XL2. We will have a pie chart tomorrow, by the way. It will be me and Mackie on Mackie and Judd, Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd, giving us some pie charts. The Wolves are going on right now, too, so Flagrant Howls, check that out. Plus Purple Daily. We are 4 days away from the NFL draft party with Surly Brewing at Park Tavern. We're jacked for that, so plenty of mock drafts galore coming at you on Purple Daily over the next 72 hours. Again, plus Wild playoff and maybe another Wolves playoff. We'll see what happens here. They're trying to keep their season alive. Luckily, Age and I just stick to our hockey lane here. We won't give any too many more NBA takes. Although I'm sure we could, come up with a few. We can cut a few takes there as well.
Yeah, I think we could go, we could do a little Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens tag team.
There we go.
We could cut a promo for sure.
There we go. Let's we'll get a wrestling podcast fired up too. Like just a side note, Phil Mackey and I if him and I are a couple cocktails in on a Friday night, and we're both watching SmackDown, he always says, "Why don't we just start a wrestling podcast, dude?" I'm with you. We should totally start one. Age, final thoughts here before we wrap up on Judd's Hockey Show.
Take a deep breath, everybody. I think the Wild have shown that they can beat the Kings, or not the Kings. They can beat the Stars. Whoops. They can beat the Stars and win the series. They've won on the road already. They did it game 1. So to think that now that the series is 2-2 and we're heading back to Dallas, and I don't think it's a series where they are just like out in the water with no life raft. They can go ahead and get that game, come back home, and set up a beautiful homecoming and win the series at home. They just have to really close things down on special teams. I know that sounds redundant. That's like some of these analysts that we watch the game, and it's like, well, if they score more goals, they're gonna have a really good chance of winning the game. I know that's what I sound like, but it's like I'm watching. I'm like, why is this so bad? You have to. So yeah, let's take a deep breath, everybody. We still got at least 2 more games to go. So I think we're in for a pretty good series. At the end of the day, Dex, we're getting some darn good hockey. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, hit that subscribe button too for daily Minnesota sports entertainment right here on Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd, plus Judd Sock Show, Flagrant Howls. We have covered completely. Royce Unchained tomorrow as well, so we'll get thoughts from Royce from over the busy Minnesota sports weekend. Judd and I will be back on Tuesday night for a post-game edition from Game 5, hopefully talking about potentially the Minnesota Wild obviously going up 3-2 against the Dallas Stars. We'll have Ventline ready to rock for you. Appreciate everyone watching, hanging out. Hit that subscribe button for daily Minnesota sports entertainment, and pass, shoot, score.